Good afternoon, everybody. Today we have Wendy Theo from Borneo Lab and Wendy Theo Architect. She's going to share her life from childhood.
Not from childhood though. Don't get me more stressed.
Your enviro before you jumping into the architecture. Just sharing. Because you need to know the enviro before you jumping into architecture.
Yeah.
And after you jump into architecture, you studied in several very good university, like the Bartlett, a Architecture Association. And you work in hostel and partners. And then after that you came back to Sarawak, which I thought many people will use Malay as a language, but it's not. It's in English and in Chinese. It's quite
English dialect.
English language. It's quite interesting to see how's the environment that shaped you. And then as we know that it's not easy to work in the environment like in England, like the work studying in Bartlett and AA. Cambridge. Cambridge.
Yeah.
I thought you were in AA.
No,
Cambridge.
Cambridge.
Wow, it's more interesting. Have a dual extreme from the Cambridge to Bartlett.
Yeah, I will share about that.
And then looking at the probably gender bias. We talk about the glass ceiling, which is unseen but it's there. You try to like penetrate the ceiling, but you can't. And I think, and you talk about the canopy, right, last time? About the platform that train people that can be can get the certification as an architect, which is very valuable. Which I didn't know it exists when I was in London. When if I knew, probably I would take another. Because that's one of the difficulties when we practice outside. When we wanted to get a certificate, and it's impossible to get because there's a lot of time and then resources needs to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will also share about that.
Yes, I think.
About
Yes, about being an architect. Yes.
how to get the license.
Yes. And then we in the area the theme is a bitter and sweet. You need to share the bitterness that will share the sweetness. And then this lecture is seen by a lot of people who's not here. It's like some of the lectures is seen by the East Indonesia and West Indonesia. We are like in the center, epicenter.
Okay,
And
now
a lot of
I'm stressed.
a lot of venue is happening in the center of epicenter, but there will be, I mean, in the periphery, they need to see a lot of discourse. So I hope this sharing and discussion will get us into much of discourse. Okay, Wendy, I think let's go a little bit to you. Let's have a applause.
Thank you, so kind. Thanks for the kind introduction. So when Willie just told me like, oh yeah, let's do this.
So it was only 3 days ago, so really it's not a nice
PowerPoint, no fancy effect and no animation or no video. So today what I'm going to share is like basically a couple of key things. Yeah, so my body of research is like the background. So I was looking at like digital fabrication and also like how natural material can be applied into it and in different scale as well. Yeah, so this is also my body of investigation, like and the experiences. But because it's like you see, I didn't really have time to make it into like diagrammatic visual. So what I'm going to share today is basically 5 different things: the education, and all on the practice side, and then teaching on my teaching side, and reading, like one of the things that I find it very important, and then at the end with identity. Yeah, so I think it's more like a discussion. So let's start from the education because most of you, I assume, are students. So I thought that education will be quite relevant for you all because I don't know how the Indonesia education is structured, but what I went through is actually part 1, part 2, part 3. So in UK, you have to finish like 3 years part 1. That is almost equivalent to the Asian like 4 years, 5 years education. But in UK, it's like 3 years. And then after that, you get some experience. You have your year out. After that, you go back into practice and do 3 years master. Yeah. So in the past, they used to call it graduate diploma, like AA or UCL. And then now, like they also have master attached to it. And then after that, like you work a bit more, 1 year or 2 years, and then you get your license part 3. So I think like in the ideal case, you can finish everything within 8 to 10 years. Yeah, but there's always a lot but it never really went smoothly like that. Especially I did my first degree in Taiwan, and then I went to UK. So this is when I was doing my first degree in Taiwan. I was a full scholarship student, but when they say the full scholarship, it means that every year you have to maintain a certain score in order to consecutively get your tuition fee to continue. Yeah, so that was one of the reasons I drawn to that university was because of the library. It was known to have the best university library, campus library in Taiwan. So I was quite like excited to get into that university and study. So in my second year, I participated in my first workshop. In my first workshop, I really did something with Bartlett. That was the first time I knew about Bartlett and also knew about their pedagogy, their way of thinking, their way of like pushing the design. Yeah, so I was the youngest student in the workshop. So it was in my second year, 10 days in intensive workshop, and then we were sleeping in the school, and then we bring our own printer, like and fabrication was super exciting because that was the first time. Every time when we drew like a toilet or wall, like previously in the normal course, we didn't know like what was it like in the reality. But then that was the time that we started to make things happen. Like especially within 10 days time, we have to build something. So this is my part of the work, and then that was the first time that I looked at the relationship between the building interface and human. So for me, it was quite exciting. And then after 10 days, we turned it into something like this. It's all about like precision. And I still remember during that time, like we all of a sudden like need to collaborate and build something. And then a lot of time that when people just go on and do their own thing, like when things doesn't really fit, it doesn't really work that way. So it had so during the process I had a sneak peek of the design process, and also with like establish the friendship and intellectual relationship with other peers as well. So that was also the point I started thinking like, wow, that would be so good if I can continue that kind of conversation, because a lot of time in the very conventional school, like what Fengxia was known for during that time, it is a very technical school, probably something equivalent to I don't know whether you have such a school in Indonesia. People know how to build building, but then like it's not known for the aesthetic pursuit. Yeah. So having that exposure made me think that wow, I really need to find a way for my creative output, because that is something I really enjoy. Yeah. So after that, like in my 5th year, I had another experience with Bartlett. So they came back again, and then I did another workshop. So during that time, like that was during my graduate project. So what I realized is that, normally during the graduate project, people will just like focusing on the graduation project rather than working on other things. But I took my time. I decided to make sure that like, oh yeah, everything is already kind of done before that workshop actually happened. So I sneaked out from the school and then did the workshop with them. And then I never regret a bit, because that time was like more exposure to CNC making or the laser cut. So I always believe, like I'm a believer that if you really want to make things happen, sometimes in the school that we see as an authority, they will advise you what to do, what not to do. But you have to fight for your own experience. You have to get your own education. In order to do so, you have to be courageous enough to really just pick up the chance. Yeah. So then that was how I knew more about Bartlett. But I would say at that point it was still very superficial because I investigated more through publication and also through some of the eye candy picture on the internet. As you can see, like when people talk about Bartlett, it was all about like all this nice model and big drawings, big animation and things like that. So it was really exciting for architectural students, especially in your stage. I bet like some of you also take a lot of inspiration from all the school and the production from the students as well. So in my final year project, I won several awards, and some of these awards made me possible to accumulate a certain sum to pay for my first year tuition fee. So I still remember, like I don't have the picture, but I still remember when I was renting an apartment, like after 4 years staying in the student accommodation. I remember on that wall I was saying to myself like I want to go to Bartlett, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know what to do. So the only way that I can do it is like just to make sure my graduate project can win something as many as possible. Yeah. So that was the point that like I started submitting my project to competition. I realized, you know what, as a student sometimes you think that it's not possible, like to win something, to be able to manifest something. But at the end, like people interested in the idea, in the project, not necessarily like what you are, what age you are, how old you are. Yeah. As long as you're willing to share, people are ready to listen. So after that, I also got the offer from Bartlett, like, and in my first year of Bartlett experience, like, the exhibition was quite intimidating because you all of a sudden you see a lot of like really nice, high quality production and model and drawings being presented in front of you. And I remember during that year, we were so unhappy. I was so unhappy myself, like, because all the time, like when you enter this university, most of the reason that like most of the time people enter this university in order to fulfill their design agenda, trying to be what they wanting to be. But the problem is that the same with the tutor, the same with like all this design unit master, like some of the unit master actually using that as an arena to compete with other designers. And or sometimes even use the student to produce their work. Yeah. So if you enter the university without a very strong agenda or without any defensive mechanism toward yourself and even toward your project, you will probably end up becoming the machine of the unit. So that was the danger of it. And then during that year we produced 3 projects totally. In total, but then 2 of the project was done for the tutor. So that was why we were really fed up because it was only 2 years, and a lot of us actually paying such a high tuition fee, especially coming those ones who came from internationally. So I still remember like wow, we were working a lot for the tutor. Yeah, producing things like repetitive stuff and some of the stuff that we don't even like. And then that year round, a lot of people, because first year was already harsh enough, like they filter half of the students, so half of the students fell in the process, so they couldn't go on. If they want to go on, they have to stay over the summer in order to produce something that they can prove themselves that they are equivalent to stay on. So it means that they will use the summer to rest. That was also the first time I realized, wow, summer holiday was so important because you need to really take a break from such an intensive course and and you need to also find yourself, because fifth year is much more important. It's very important. Like you need to already have your skill set. You need to know what you want to do. And I still remember when I entered the university, my tutor seems to have carried the impression that like I'm going to go on with all this rendering and digital technique and stuff like that. But I wanted to study, I wanted to work on something I never had, like workshop. Just like what I said to you earlier, like in that university we were so good at things, technical things. Like computerization of the work is not really a problem. But the problem is really on making. And to be honest, when it comes to education, architectural education, what I find is like when you want to do something on the computer, it's actually low budget, you know. And when you want to make it into reality, it's really test the facility, the environment, the commitment of the student, and also like whether the tutor have the equivalent skill set to provide you. So it's a much more expensive like education if you're judging it that way. So for me, like I decided to take the break for myself and just to do something I like. And I went to Turkey because that was the point that I was invited to be a tutor in a workshop. So I did glass and I thought like it just doesn't make sense. Some of the people they stay on in the university in order to finish the work for the first year fail. Yeah, the examination. And some of the students just went back home. Yeah, just want to take a break. Yeah, and most of the people I know like work for somebody else, but not so many of them like doing. I think there's a few, but I wouldn't say all of them. Yeah, like my best friend Linda, like a Swedish, she went to Caracas. She went to work for Urban Think Tank during that time. So I thought, it's like, you know what, we are probably the only two that doing some interesting things within our unit, but I can't speak for other unit because I think other unit is better. Yeah, and then with that experience, I think it's somehow, because I was working on the glass blowing, I still remember the Ushta was like telling me how to blow the glass, how to deal with the glass, and I don't know how many of you like working with glass before. You have to be really calm, you have to be really quick, and your reaction has to be very sensitive. Yeah, toward the glass, because if you miss a second, less than 0.01 second, like the whole thing basically just doesn't work, and you have to train yourself in order to. I spent almost a week time just to pull the glass, not even doing anything, just to pull the glass. Yeah, like making a glass straw, and then in order to have that. That is more like the basic. After that, you can blow it. You can work with it, and then start to shape glass blowing in different shape. And what I learned from that experience is like, wow, really stay calm, you know, and really be precise. And a lot of time, things like architecture or glass blowing, they take skill, and then you polish your skill. You spend a lot of time polish your skill. Yeah. So in my second year, I still went back to Bartlett, and then during that time I was thinking like whether it's worth it, like if the tutor are abusive. Yeah. So I confront, because the first year I already confronted my tutor. I was saying that this is not the way to go.
What did you confront him or her?
I sit him like basically it's a very open environment. So I still remember myself and Linda, like the tutor was sitting with us, and then we were like, we just not agree with the way it works. Yeah. So the tutor wasn't so happy, of course. Yeah. But it's not our problem. Yeah. Our problem is that if we're not getting the education that we need, and simply repeating somebody else's agenda, the education doesn't work for us. Yeah. So that was how, like, I think it's also carried out in a very calm way. Yeah. But so it wasn't. I remember it wasn't really taken that easily for them. Yeah, because there's two of them. So since for them is like they need to fulfill the commission, and they didn't have the office to do so. so they need to use the unit to do so.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
So it's a commission project.
it's a commission project.
And you're part of the troops.
Yes, it's part of the army.
Just know that.
Yeah.
It does exist.
Yeah, I mean like it's happened. It's happened sometime. Well, it's gonna lead to what I was going to do with joining the online institute and stuff like that, because just purely because you think this is a norm and you think this is a special, but in fact, if you hear more story from different university, you will realize this is a norm. Yeah. Yeah, especially it's not simply happen in the Asian faculty, and sometimes we always think that glass is greener on the other side. Yeah, the same story you can hear it from other Ivy League institute. Yeah, so it's not really
It's
something-
commissioned.
Huh?
It's commissioned
Commission.
by some of the other institutions. I mean, some of the project even.
No, I mean the same kind of story. Yeah. So I think for as a mature student, because I already finished my first degree before, and seeing what is going on, of course we know this is not okay. Yeah. But we told them, and then they were saying that like fifth year will be better. So we went back and then we took on the fifth year, and then at that point I was just like, okay, I need to just focus on my own thing. Yeah, and the same with Linda as well, like my friends. And I was quite influenced by what I learned during the summer break, like looking at the transparency, the translucency. So with my project, I started to make a lot more. Yeah, and seeing like how can we do things, how can we fit things, like simple things like fitting the the tube or the glass or the acrylic, or working with fluid, working with like transparency in that process. And then so there's a lot of like dialogue, but I have to say that dialogue quite a lot of time is actually happen like just between us, or like so sometimes I think during that time, of course there's also a lot of conversation. I think the quality of the conversation definitely got better on the second year. Yeah, so in the final project, I still remember like in those schools, it's like overall I think it's a very inspiring environment, because you really do get to see a lot of like very talented people. And I still remember like we were fighting for resources a lot, like laser cutter, CNC. Yeah, so it is a norm for you guys now. It's like a basic. And I still remember during that time, I needed to do like a lot of laser cutting because of the nature of my final project. So I still remember we had to queue out for the slot, because in the school, if you want to do the laser cutting, it's £5 per hour, and outside the school is £20 per hour. So what do? You know? So of course you're going to use the one in the school. Yeah, and so I still remember every time when we want to use it, we have to queue out a week before. Just because it's like if you only queue out like on that week, you will lose all the slot. And they will need to leave one day for maintenance. It means that like I think it's only open for 4-5 days. So it means that like every single day you only have like 7 slots, and then you multiply 4-5. It's not so much, you know. So and when you queue out for such a long time, of course you're not going to just book one slot, because it's not enough. So you will normally book like several slots. And I remember like 4 o'clock in the morning, cycling to the school, and then it was around like, when I reached there, it's around 5 o'clock, because it's like there's a distance, you know. And there was already like 4 or 5 people before me. Yeah, so that is how competitive it was. Yeah. But you know what? It's like when you see these people, it's like they just want to make things happen. They just want to like, you know, build crazy stuff, like build big stuff and manifest big, you know.
What do you mean by big and crazy? Can you define?
Like for example, I still remember one of the my colleague, like Asako. Asako was so she didn't pass the first year, but the second, she was looking at something to do with reading. Yeah, so then on the second year when she redo her thesis again, she joined a group that focusing a lot on HCI, human computer interaction, that kind of stuff. So she picked out a lot of Arduino knowledge, like to look at how to set up the interaction. Yeah. So that kind of interaction like will affect how the woven product. Yeah. So the kind of machine that she built was basically a room scale, probably equivalent to this size. That is a thesis project. Yeah. So that is one of the things that is quite big. And from some of the photo you saw is actually from the thesis project as well. Yeah. Some of these things. Yeah. So it's made by student, all made by student from scratch. Yeah. So that was how it worked. And for me, like I also want to look at like how to look at detail, because a lot of time we tend to, especially in a technical background of my first degree university, like what I find is like a lot of time people just pick the detail from maybe GA or like some books, you know. Or so those are already a ready product. But in Bartlett, what we encourage is more like, okay, looking at the original detail, looking at like how could you understand the relationship, how do you understand the nature, the essence, or why, yeah, and how behind all this detail. So we spend a lot of time working with material. We spend a lot of time like inventing our own detail. Yeah. So that was how the final project came out. Yeah. So that final project actually got me like the distinction and also the offer from Foster and Partners, but with a lot of like commitment. I still remember because of that project, the first year I didn't know where to get stuff, you know, and the stuff is so expensive. So the second year, I actually went starting to talk to people from Taiwan, and how could we import some of the acrylic, and also start to set out my. I still remember before the school start, me and two American friends of mine, equally with the similar position, we decided to buy an A0 plotter. So it's yeah, a second-hand A0 plotter. Yeah, so we set it up so we decide, okay, who is going to take that plotter? So we decide it's going to be Thomas, because he just lives next door, you know, next to the school. So that's a very convenient spot. Yeah. So with the acrylic, I still remember like I sourced maybe 200 pounds, but in London it's equivalent to 3,000 pounds. Yeah. So not simply using that, I can also sell it. So it's like it's just how things work. I think like when you want to do things, very important is to be strategic, to know where your things coming from, to know what kind of material you want to deal with, you want to use, or even like with the facility. The first thing that when I set out Borneo Lab, I bought laser cutter just to fulfill the old time, you know. Yeah, that kind of. Yeah, I think it had the resentment and also that feelings of like that fear of not having a well-equipped facility, and when you can't even do experiment, not to say about like designing something original, you have to equip yourself with some either hardware or software. This has to be like equipped enough for you to be the master of your destiny. Yeah, so that was the only way around. And
what's the story you can get the offer? Is it he came to your exhibition?
Yes. So I think you know because
what's the culture?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah, because it's like
I
every
just
year.
hear the story.
So I think it's also very political as well, because that is how the graduates show why and also when this happened is so important. Like so student and faculty and university, they care about like when to put their show and how they put it. and who to invite. So because obviously for all this school, I think another way of endorsement is basically how many students being taken by the big company.
Okay, so it's
Right?
a network between the company and then
Yes.
the university.
I think so. Otherwise, it's like all. But Bartlett show, I think, is quite famous in I think general context. So a lot of people would just come to the show, get the inspiration. Even with even the senior architect, they would come and then they will want to know like, oh yeah, who is doing what and what is the new experiment. Yeah. So people from Foster, the senior partner from Foster came to the exhibition, and then he would put like maybe 6 offer, and then or maybe 3 offer, like in the to see. I mean, like in the pool of the students. So it really depends on like whether sometimes, to be honest, the distinction doesn't lead to the offer, like because they have to come to the site, come to the exhibition, and to decide who to hire. So that was how it works. So that is why like having the time to produce your work, having the facility, material, or the right advice to produce your work is so important because it lead to a lot of things. Yeah, so that's what I learned why it is so important. And when I say why it is political, it has to do with in a school. Normally there's not simply just one course, right? So there's more than like 2-3 courses. So are you going to put them all together? It will mean that like people will be all fighting for the workshop, for the resources. So it will be a chaotic situation for the school internally. So normally they will split it like to different time. So some of the department, like for example the architecture, during that time is get the best one, which is the design festival. So it's kind of collide with design festival, and people from the design festival crowd, they will also come to the show. Yeah. So if your show happen in, let's say, September, who is going to come to the show? Yeah. So some of the department, because they were being seen more like I'm so bad to say that, but it's more like a cash cow, of the for the faculty. So then they don't get the right time sometimes. Yeah. So to be honest, in Bartlett and AA, like people openly talk about this. Yeah. So be selective and really understand what the school does when if you ever have a plan to apply for the overseas like department. Yeah.
In that time, how was your interpretation of the Barton and AA? I mean, in the general term, is it same in terms of exhibition, or have a certain approach in this year?
I would say during my time in Bartlett, what I find is more there's an emphasis on the narrative, and in AA is more on the tools, on the technology.
Technical.
I think it's all has to do with their director during that time.
Yes.
Yeah. Because during that time, like if you look at AA, they structure in, now we have ePro as well, but then during that time they have their AADRL, and then MTech, and then something else. But then they all doing, they share similar idea, So why is split into different group? Yeah. So I think they also want to take turns in looking at different adaptive technology. Yeah. And see how to apply it in the education pedagogy. Yeah. So obviously, like the natural course of progression is more like looking at how could I get my license in UK. Yeah, because it's like to get that job offer. To be honest, it's like I didn't expect that, but to have that, like, it also means that, oh yeah, then it's opened the door for me to think about like getting my qualifications, like the entire qualification, certification from UK. But since my part 1 was done in Taiwan, like that 5 years education doesn't allow me to kind of go on and qualify right away. So I need to do another external examination. There's something that like I would say in UK they are quite strict. They are quite trying to make sure everyone just pass according to their standard. So I did my part one through the external exam. I still remember like while I was preparing for that in the night time after work, some of my Korean colleagues came to me and asked me, okay, so what are you doing? And I was preparing for my part one, and then he was like, wow, good luck, because I did mine for 4 times and I didn't get it. And I was like, wow, that's so stressful. It was really stressful, and I think nothing wrong to that guy or his portfolio. I think it also has to do with like sometimes I do feel that language is one of the key things, because it also has to do with interview. You need to do interview alongside your document. Yeah. So how do you communicate that through, and also how do you present them in a proper way? Yeah. So I got mine for the first time, but I did a lot of work for it. Yeah. So I still remember like working hard for half a year, like in order to create document like this. Yeah. It's a very thick document like that. And all drawings. Yeah. And also with the detail. So I'm not so worried about the detail because it's like I came from a very pretty technical school. Yeah. So, and also the thesis as well. So after I got my part one, so from fulfilling the part one and then part three, everything took me around 3 years. Yeah. So part three now is the next challenge. So when I think like probably you don't understand like what is part one, part two, part three, isn't it? Like so part one is more like a very basic like study, but in Bartlett it's already pushed to a very technical level. Technical, you need to do your technical study, and then the part two is more like, oh yeah, you start to have your design agenda in your building and manage to produce a original detail like out of your design. So that is your manifestation of like the maturity. So part three is more like okay, understanding like how it works in a practical context. Yeah, like how do you run an office? How do you charge? How do you sort out the legal terms with the client? How do you manage the office in different scale? And how do you arrange contract and also the process of working with the client? And that's the point that I realized, wow, there's actually a lot of glass ceiling. Especially when it comes to like what kind of project they will accept. Yeah, so if you happen to work in a big office like mine, a lot of time there's a cash flow issue. When we talk about cash flow, at the moment we only talk about like in local office, normally local office deal with the local cash flows and that. But with the international office, if things doesn't work in UK, then we go to China, we go to Asia to find our money. Yeah, so it means that like you always shuffle people around. Yeah, and what it means to those people is like you never really fixated on certain one project. You get your project like in different pools. Yeah, and with part three, most of the provider like those one in Westminster is the popular one. AA is also another popular one. UCL as well. Yeah. So I think like some of these schools, what I realized is that during that time when I first entered Foster, it was 2011. That was right after the crash. So right after the financial crash, a lot of people actually moved away and a lot of projects actually shut down. So my group was Group 1. Group 1 was famous with like a lot of UK projects, but a lot of UK projects put on hold just because the money was shuffled. Like there's no money to sponsor it. So not to say like to hire, to sustain like a lot of architects. So if you can keep a job during that time, that is already good. And when I first enrolled, there is not so much going on. And for me, like the company priority is to keep me like with the Asian project and also one UK project, but that UK project was put on hold. And so when I went to the school and talked about this, what they told me is like, you know what, preferable UK project. And I was like, at this point, who is going to get UK project, right? Because it's like there's no UK project at the moment. So he and then she was like, you know what, there's a lot of people with the UK project. And then we were talking about like in what scale, extension scale. Do the housing extension. I'm not saying that is not a project, but it's like if you do an extension, some people even make their own project in order to make their part 3. So who can do that? Of course, people with deep pocket. So this is the first time I realized, wow, this is the first glass ceiling, It's like it actually means that certain people can be architect. Like when it will be, I wouldn't say can be architect. It's more like it's more convenient for them to pursue that. Like just because they are working on smaller project or like they are working, they have the money to kind of like start their own project or things like that. So there's a project preference in that. And another thing is again, like once you have UK project, I had my UK project, but it was a big scale project. And then because of that big Shoreditch High Street project, yeah. So with that project, basically it's a huge tower. And then with that tower, of course, like with more than probably 100 of like subcontractor, you're not going to organize through one contract, isn't it? So it's going to be with an umbrella of contract. And then a lot of time, like because of the client doesn't want to deal with so much risk, so they tend to hire a contractor who is already experienced enough to deal with that. What that means is that this contractor is going to take care of, once we only take care of the design, and then we pass on to the contractor, so to do the building, which is a design build contract. So there are 3 contract routes. One is the traditional contract, and then the design contract, and then the contract management route. Yeah. So with this second one, obviously the client doesn't have to deal with so much risk. But the thing is, when I go to the school again, they were like, you know what? It doesn't work because we prefer traditional contracts. Traditional contracts means that like you do one building, and then the architect carry throughout. With the design and build, obviously the contractor is going to do what is the best interest for them because they want to lower their risk, right? And then they want to make sure that like not so much advice, not so much like interference, either from the client side or the architect side. Just because if there's so much interference, it means that a lot of variation, a lot of time, like and with the GMP, like guarantee maximum price project, like they keep a pricing cap. So if there's any changes, it will go up. But then obviously they don't want that happen because from now on, this is the money that they are handling. They are not going to release it. Yeah, so they don't want so much changes and so much time incident happen on us, like have a repercussion on the time. So we just basically in that case your interference will be very low. Yeah. So when I went back to those like part 3 provider again, they were like, you know what, would prefer like traditional contract. But in that case, I was again like asking like who is going to get the like the project with the traditional procurement. They were like, you know what, there are people who getting it, like again the extension project. The kind of small scale project, like because then architect can carry throughout. Yeah, so this is the first time. Wow, it's like the structure of the study is not really helping the people from big office, or when you're working for somebody else, you have no control on your experience. And so they will also ask the question like whether you work from stage 1 to stage 9, whether you're and in part 3 your project better have a problem, because with a problem you can understand what is going on and how could you set out the case study. Yeah. And then after so many investigation, and I realized actually there is a school is more ideal for me because having the lesson, having the experience in my part two in UCL, I realized the same thing. If you want your experience, if you want the kind of education, you need to find the good one for you because it's like it doesn't really work when you go to something that's not really your best suit. Yeah, you're not going to be happy, you're not going to learn anything. And since I'm going to invest 1 year of my time in this, why not? I might as well just go for something that I believe in. Yeah, so I decided to go to Cambridge, but in Cambridge they only take like 20 students, and then with that 20 students they want to make sure like they have the diversity of experience. Yeah, so I was the one that with the big office experience, with the big office international project experience, and the rest of the students that are looking, they have some of them started their own practice. Some of them like working in a medium-sized practice. Yeah. So I still remember like during that time, the weekday routine was structured like this. It's like 6 o'clock cycling to work, and then run for 5 km in the gym, and then start writing my case study. That was before the working time. And then 12 o'clock like eating, and then having the study group organized with the team. So I think that is very important because during that time, I realized how crucial to have your supporting team in the workplace, in the practice. So then you can study and work and together. Yeah. So and also debate. Yeah. And because what famous for Cambridge is like the debate culture. Like you have to have a voice. You have to put your opinion out there. And you need to, if you don't believe in something, you need to challenge it. So that's what I believe is quite good. And like 8 o'clock eating, and then like after half an hour studying, and then cycling home around 10. So every single day for a year. Yeah. So there was like the kind of like lesson when I outline all the study topic that I have to go through.
Can you zoom in?
Yeah.
What's that actually? Can you explain a bit what's the color, what's the green meaning, the yellow meaning, the blue?
Okay, so I think if I haven't forget it, like the yellow one is the one that I already studied during that exact time, and then the blue one was the one that like I need to review, and then the green one was more like the one that I need to double check. Yeah. So you can see like the health and safety law, and then the land and property laws and the statutory undertake stuff like that.
Is that the issue that you need to accomplish in your part 3? Do you have a checklist?
Okay,
Is it working that way?
For part 3, it's more like you have to do an exam.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that exam actually cover law, and also the contract, and the practice and management, and what else? And yeah, and also the procurement. Procurement is already the contract. So then you also need to do a case study. Yeah. So with the case study, you have to analyze like what interests you, what's your practice interest. Yeah, so for me, I set out my interest like this. It's like, so for the case study, is around like 10,000 words. But on the other hand, you will be, I think the things that you get out of it, it will be way much more because people were looking for the resources, and then when you share the resources, they will share their resources in it as well. Yeah. So. And then it's come to the second dimension, the practice. Yeah. So that is the ideality and reality. Can you understand? It's like the door doesn't really match. Yeah, it's supposed to be, it's a bathroom door. Yeah. So what happened was like, in fact, there's a lot of things that you can't really plan. You know, sometimes, of course, like people will say, yeah, now you're doing a lot. But in fact, like when I first started, I remember I just wanted to stay in hostel for 6 months. Yeah, I want to get that experience and then set up my own thing. But then there's a lot of other issues like, for example, you need a qualification, and then you need to have a visa, and also you need other things to allow that to happen. Yeah. So during that time, um, and but entering Costa, I think is one of the. I have to say I look at it like with a lot of gratitude because I learned a lot and I have one of the best mentors in the world. I think it's like who born the same age, same day as me, but different year of course. Yeah. So during that time we were doing a lot of this design research. Yeah. So a lot of time each of these components. So this is a pavilion. That I did the design like solely because the project is small enough. Only after I worked on the master plan project for 2 years. So it's not
What's
yeah.
the master plan project?
So Tachong. Yeah, Tachong in Shenzhen. So it's already built. Yeah. So it's kind of like strange, thinking about wow, it's like because now it's been built. But we were working on it like day and night and day. Yeah, for quite a long time.
3 years.
3 years. 3 years overall 3 years. But with that project, it was also running for some time.
In the parallel.
Yeah, in the late stage of the project. Yeah. So a lot of planning, and I think the Foster way of like working is like you need to have a study plan. You need to have a storyboard. Yeah. So outlining the storyboard was a key, and also what my mentor did at. Yeah. So I kind of like picked out the skill. I already knew like it is important in Bartlett, but in Foster is another level. It's like you need to kind of cover different facets of study, and also the model making, and because it was supported by such a huge army of the like 3D printer, laser cutter. So if we want to specify something, we can put together something quite quickly. So with these, for example, it took me around maybe 5 days. Yeah, but of course I need to produce the detail for them to print. Yeah. So I still remember this is the part that like I think I had that brief conversation with you when we were in Hong Kong. But one thing that I really hate, but not necessarily something wrong about like corporate. I think it's just in general like people pigeonhole you for constantly doing one thing for so long. Like I was spending a lot of time looking at material in Foster because in Foster we have such a wonderful material library. There's always, most of the time, no one in. Yeah, so I was spending a lot of time like in that material database. Yeah. So and also finding the material that really excite me. Yeah. So I still remember spending like almost a month and a half like looking at the right material for one project. Yeah, just to take a lot of picture and also to understand, to assemble them. Like for example, this part is like when you're combining the mesh with two glasses. One is with the tinted glass, one is with the low UOV. Like yeah. So how does it work? And also the center one is like with the fabric. Yeah. So when can you imagine a glass with the fabric texture, and also with the last one is create the illusion. Yeah. So it's an acidic like they put the acid on the glass. So then the glass will becoming blurry. Yeah. So that was the part that really excited me. Similar to when I was in Bartlett. Yeah, but people pigeonhole you. They were like, "Wow, it's like you're such a loser. You're working in the library for so long, like doing one thing." But looking back, I still think that that's the most beneficial part in my learning curve because it's like I basically got something quite unique out of my experience. What do you care? Yeah. So like that was the point that I realized, you know what, sometimes you really need to fight for your experience. You need to know like why, because during that time like when people say something like that to you, you will think that it's so annoying. Just because it's like I work very hard and also I kind of like doing one thing, and then in the corporate they will see you being pigeonholed. But in fact it was them being pigeonholed, and so that was the finalized material like palette. normally you will come to this stage, and then you turn it into a conclusion. The conclusion of your research is more like, oh yeah, with the drawings, and also to see how they come together. Yeah. So I have to say, like during that time, I'm still kind of like in the reality, like trying to fight with. I wouldn't say fight. I would say like negotiate. Negotiate with the identity. Like, okay, the weekday working for somebody else, like put together a set of drawings and vendors and details and the material palette. They will talk about the project, but weekend, yeah, I also set out my own thing and then like have my own agenda and then working a lot, like continuing my study, because some of those study is not considered as a priority. Yeah. Like that's what I find in Foster. Like even a lot of people would say, yeah, that is the arena for design experimentation. But experiencing Bartlett myself, what I realized is that it's not, it's not really. It's like, I think like when probably the Foster is like they work with some already standardized or mature like detail. But when it's come to like the pure idea experimentation, like we still need to find our way to figure out the palette for it. Yeah. So for the weekend it's more like my R&D time to look at how things can work. Yeah. So after a while I realized, wow, I need a studio. So I basically like during my free time I also like rented another place to kind of work in there, because the stuff I gather start to become more and more. And those are the things that like they are not going to fund, you. And also like myself, you need to find extra resources in order to make things happen. So during that time I was lucky because with some of my exhibition, some of my project like gone into summer exhibition, RA and Needle Prize. So Needle Prize is one of the biggest like figurative art prize. Yeah, so I managed to get into the art scene as well. So I think with the art scene, they always like in UK they will sponsor like some of the venue for the artists to do their work. And from my side, I wanted to do a book. Yeah.
You rent a space for your studio.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's so crazy, right?
It's not your apartment.
It's not my apartment. My apartment is
So
somewhere else.
how was the economy model work?
So it's like I would say, okay, like I would say for my rent is probably like 600-700, yeah, and then for the studio it's around like it's not so much, to be honest. I would say it's probably like when I first started it was around like 200 something. So it's okay, because I know for some people they stay in a very luxurious studio.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's already cost like maybe 1,000. But for me, I think it's very important to get that time. Yeah, I would say like spending on the studio is one thing. Spending like on the material is another thing. Because when you want to make stuff, you need to invest. So that's how I realized, wow, like when people want to do project, they don't just go and take from their saving. They look at like, okay, if the project is relevant to the community, they set up the crowdfunding. So that was when I first started my crowdfunding and realized how it works. So when Kickstarter first started, I was one of the first batch in UK.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
For what project?
For a book project, for a publication project.
Oh.
Yeah, so because in that year I was also accepted for not accepted, it's like they looked for me after my graduation to do a project, an Artilab project in France or Lyon, and then the Pompidou director was the one behind this. Yeah, so Federico like approached me and saying like, hey Wendy, would you be interested in teaching and working on something in France or Lyon? Yeah, so I was like, yeah, let's do it. So we did a workshop and then we did an exhibition in Lyon.
Just to share, how did you get the connections between?
That connection. Actually, because he was at that point he was the director of the school.
Partner. Oh, I see. So he
Yeah.
still remember you.
To be honest, when I was in school, we didn't get in touch. But then he saw the project. He thought like, you know what, we need that kind of narrative because actually my project is touched on like some cultural landscape.
It's been like several years, right?
Yeah. It has been a year gap. So I did my exhibition around like 2014. Yeah, but my graduation was 2011.
Okay.
So it's like 2-3 years apart. Yeah. So we're not talking about the sweet side. We're talking about a lot on the bitter side, like how like a lot of struggling, a lot of yeah. So on the teaching side, yeah. So later on it's going to be shorter and quick. Yeah. So we leave some ground for. So after my part 3, it's very interesting this part. After my part 3, I actually got an offer, a teaching offer, which is something that I always like. Because I think for some architect, teaching is only an addition to their practice. But in fact, for me, teaching is part of me, you know. It's teaching and like teaching and practice is like they are me. They are not an addition to one another. They are just one holistic thing. So I thought, you know what, that is perfect. I always wanted to teach and teaching in where like it's Greenwich University. So a lot of people doesn't know like Bartlett, you know, the history of Bartlett kind of came from, you know, in AA, some of the faculty like not so happy with the way his works. They decided to go to Bittersweet as a lead, like took the big part of the faculty and went to Bartlett, UCL, and set up Bartlett. And then during that time, like actually it was my tutor. My tutor was selected as the director, and then also the same group of like architect and the faculty not so happy about that, and then they decided to all quit Bartlett and then went to Greenwich and set out a new Bartlett.
It's a karma.
Yeah.
Architecture is always like that.
It's always like that. It's always, I mean,
Oedipus complex.
yes,
Killing
it's
your
like,
roots.
So when we talk about geopolitics, it's like in a micro scale, it's happened like that. And I mean like it's very nice of like some of the tutor like in Greenwich, like originally from Bartlett, they still remember me and also they talk about like how about having this kind of approach to set up a like to co-teaching with another unit master because I need that experience to be the unit master. And then it's like, you know what, I think it's a very beautiful, you know, it could be a very beautiful like
Unit master meaning like you are a person who like an
Leading.
administrator, leading,
Yeah,
and then you have
leading
your
unit.
own unit, right?
yes,
Your own research, right? With
Exactly.
with the students.
exactly, yeah. So I thought like, wow, that is such a good opportunity, and I really wanted that. But then I still remember when to like they already got even the contract, you know, I just need to sign these sheets and then it's ready. They even because my visa is under the working visa code is under the like you can only work for the architectural practice. So even did an agreement on like how about we just put the money, we just send the money through the practice, and then let the practice pay me. So then I don't have to worry about the visa. So they're even willing to take that step. Yeah, but when I went to my office, my senior partner was like, so I was like, I really would like to teach. And then he was like, I really want you to focus on the advancement because now you have your part 3 is the time. But then for me, inside me, so that's what I cost, you don't get to tell me what I should do. You know? So that was the time that like, I also started traveling a lot because I know that like my time in UK is, you know what, probably that is it. Because it's like, I already had my education, the education I wanted, and also the experience that I need. Yeah. And also the confidence as well. I think that is the most important part. You know that like when a project comes to you, you know how to deal with it. And you are not going to be perfect anyway, and nobody knows what is going to happen next. And what you need to have is like the integrity and also the way like make like the confidence that everything, as long as you're willing to deal with it, it will be fine. Yeah, and I can't be like all the time just compromise like what I want in order to fulfill the so-called like the corporate value.
Maybe can you explain to us that how's the corporate structure in Foster and Partner so they can understand your environment when you're dealing with a senior partner. So really they have like a question, what is senior partner or something like that?
Okay. So the company structure in this way. It's not a small company. You have like only 100 people, like 200 people. It's more like during my time it was 1,200 people. 1,200 people. So it's almost like how do you call it? Like an army. Like a wing of an army. So how do you manage those people? You see? Because it's like if you look at the management, I hope at one point you get to learn a little bit about management. You know the very core, very basic way of like making sure that the hierarchy, the things, the efficiency is like after 8 people, 1 team. Yeah, after 8 people, 1 team. So with like let's say 100 people is already 4 level of hierarchy. Yeah, and with Foster obviously like of course. When we talk about 1,200 people, I would say maybe only half of the people are really architects. And out of that, half of the people is only like maybe 20% are UK architect. Yeah, so it's like UK architect is also like it's really the kind of things that like people fighting for the experience. And the rest are more like okay, international architect or the European architect. And then like in that because obviously it's still a big team, so you need to split it. Like the rest, so in Foster, they split it into 16. Yeah, 16. So each of the group basically get around like 100 something people. So it's like because the rest of the half is more like civil engineer, accountant, and lawyer, or like the ARD, like those group. Yeah. So these half of the group, basically, with each group, you have the top senior partner. So senior partner, and then they are equivalent to Foster himself. Yeah. And then after senior partner, you have partner. Yeah. And then you have the associate partner. That's how it's structured. And with the senior partner, like this is also kind of ease out like how they're going to manage, like how he's going to manage, like Norman Foster, how he himself going to manage. He doesn't need to deal with like 1,200 people. He just needs to deal with like 6 of them. So this is how it's worked because he can't manage everyone. So you see, out of the principle of like 8 and 1, that is how it works. And for Foster and Partner, it's more like 6 to 1 for him. Yeah. So now you know the senior partner is that. Yeah. And then during that time, it was also a coincidence that like an online institute just started, and then they want to look for the architect worldwide. Yeah, in order to join their palette. And to teach, to share the experience from different parts of the world, because like what I spoke to you about, like the frustration from the education or some of the unseen, through of the corporate or even a small company, like they realize actually there's a need. Yeah, actually we realize there's a need. Like we need to liberate all this knowledge. We need to let more people know about the reality of corporate and also the education. Because you would think that like, well, you pay so much money for your education, but at the end, you don't know what you dream for, That was my dream school. But then I experienced the unexpected in my dream school. I also experienced like the things that I thought it wouldn't happen. Like in the sector that I thought would be, something else otherwise. So I thought we also like collectively thought that there is a need for this kind of institute to happen. So when we first started, it was only 15 of us. Yeah, but now it's already more than 200 teaching in the faculty, teaching member in the faculty.
You are the one of the founder of this.
No, I'm only joining them, like the founding, like one of the members.
Where were they? I mean, they're located in
At
same
that
location.
point, I was the first one in UK.
Okay.
They were in Cornell and in
Cornell.
GSD.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, in GSD.
Oh.
So that was how it started.
How did you meet?
Actually, they were looking for me. I mean, like they didn't look specifically for me. They were looking for like a group of people like that maybe came from UCL and then got maybe the distinction, maybe the experience, and also working in the company like mine, like the big company, just to be able to tell the truth of like what is going on, to share the honest experience. Yeah, so like my peer during that time, like they were from Harvard and they probably work in SOM or they work in like big office or even small office, just in order for the student to have the right palette of experience to reference to. Because at the moment, let's say if you want to know more about Zaha, where do you go? How do you do it? You Google Zaha online, they're going to tell you all the shit that is not true. So where do you get the real experience? You need to talk to the people who experience that, obviously. So this is a very first-hand experience. So and over the years, what we realize is like, wow, with the network we have, we not simply can contribute in only in terms of the education. We can also like start to challenge like how this works in the registration part. Because each of the country actually have their way of setting out the registration, like the architect registration. Like I went through part 1, part 2, part 3, like with my own effort. But if there's a platform like that, sharing how it works, things will be quicker, things will be easier. Sharing you like the ugly truth about like the glass ceiling, it will speed up the entire
Like
thing.
a mentor. Being a mentor.
Yeah, being the mentor. Yeah, so it will help me tremendously.
Is it only for AIA or RMBA or is for worldwide?
Worldwide.
So actually,
we're trying to.
but actually for Indonesia, is there still possibility to join this?
I think so. Yes. So that's the thing is like I realize is like in this generation, in your generation, because you are so exposed to open source, you are so exposed to like social media, and you know like how to organize collectively like online. It's so different from my generation when I first came out from the school. I didn't know how to, let's say if I want to know more about art, like how can I find out about it? If I want to know the hard truth about like being qualified in UK, when I go online, people are just talking bullshit. Even like let's say if they pass, they're just going to tell you like the general knowledge. They're not going to take extra length to tell you what is going on, the discrimination, the glass ceiling, the things, the preference of the project. So obviously with my international background, like as an international like person, I need to go through way more, like to be able to be in that position. So I think in your generation, because you are more open to collaboration, and also the fact that you have open resources, like you can organize quite quickly. And I think fundamentally they need to know how to work collectively. Because now it's already open to you, but how to take that further step and to organize something to learn to work, to even get qualified to, yeah. And I think like I would say with the tendency of the world, it won't be surprising. Like let's say in the future in UK, most of the architects is not even like from Britain. Yeah, and even AIA, the American system. Yeah, so that's what and over the year we also did publication, and this is the some of the sneak peek of like my student work from last year. I didn't have time to put like in a big palette, but over the years I taught online and the design studio, and we even have the podcast. We sell podcast section, and we sell online workshop. We sell offline workshop as well. They came to Borneo Lab, and then we did workshop. We interviewed like when we interviewed the whole street. Yeah, so that's actually came from the student. We did the data mapping to understand the story of the street and stuff like that. So it's like quite multifaceted. Yeah, so we developed like different courses, and we also set up MOU with different schools. So then like fundamentally, instead of working for other university, instead of working like signing with the old system, like how could we create a new education like paradigm is one of the things I think is quite crucial at the moment, because like I share with you, if you look at the education nowadays, most of the professors they're so focusing on climbing the profession professorship ladder, rather than focusing on really, because I think it's the school agenda to fulfill the ranking thing. Yeah, to be maybe like the top 10 of the country or things like that, what that means. And that contributing why the tutor, they spend so much time on writing rather than teaching. So the quality of teaching and quality of education nowadays is also being jeopardized. So a lot of my students actually, like at first they wanted to know more, and then after a while they want to get the right education. They want to have like more holistic education. And I think fundamentally what we're trying to do is like instead of being part of the university, how do we set up our own school? How do we set up our own, like maybe we can start from the summer school, because you can't have a school right away. But what you can do is that you can start accumulating the content, like the brief, the methodology, the pedagogy system, like the faculty who to involve your network. So that was what I shared yesterday. It's like what we have gotten so far. And I think in the future it can evolve, like when more people can join in, when we have more resources, we can join in and then becoming something bigger. And obviously we're not against the idea of working with the school, with the legit school, with the university. But I think like we have to put ourselves on the understanding that like we are really here to trying to experimenting on something rather than fulfill certain school agenda. Because some of the school they like yesterday they were talking about, wow, is she going to like I mean like BIM
And making a BIM laboratory.
exactly, making a BIM a priority, but understanding like the world issue right now is we are not simply having the issue fundamentally from the construction industry, but also from worldwide, climate change, society, the social injustice, and the urban sprawling. Like how do you deal with that? And how do you collectively like set out a strategy for that? I think that would be the question of your generation. Yeah. So in the summer school, we're not simply doing interview, we did a lot of data mapping. And those data, it will continually help us to get the data from local. And also hopefully in the future work different places outside outside Borneo as well. So I'm confident to say that with the mapping that we have done over the street in the central teaching, our data is better than the city council data. Yeah, just simply because we did the data to the level of like trying to figure out what is the most current, who is doing the job, like I hope what kind of job like they are taking, what kind of resident, are they local or foreigner, like how old are they, how many kids they are, what is their hobby, and to the level like that. Yeah, so what is their occupation, what is their part-time job, and also the kind of things that they're interested in. So with that kind of...
Who's your supporter or customer here? I mean, the student from nearby university, or how did
from Taiwan University, from my first degree. So they came to me like when I first moved
it's quite
back.
far though.
Yeah, I know.
They
Like,
travel to Kuching
yes,
for several months
yes.
to learn from you.
Okay, so the story started like
What's
that
the model?
when I first moved back to Asia. They were like, wow, now you moved back to, because I did a lot of cycling. Yeah, a long, I mean, 2 week cycling or even cycling for 3 weeks. The list like club there, and then which I used to participate in. And so I cycled the island for 3 times so far. Yeah, so that was my.
So after you moved from Costa to
No, before Foster I already started.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, so when I was in my student days, I mean, I bet it's like in your age, like I was already like start to picking up my cycling like as a hobby, and then I went on and cycled the entire island. Yeah, and so I remember that was also before before I
Quite
went.
crazy. You did
Yeah,
a lot of
so-
stuff.
But you know what? I think like it's so rewarding. I have to say, because when they saw only 2 girls, there was only me and my junior, like 2 girls doing the cycling over the whole island. It's kind of unheard of and unseen of during that time. And I still remember every single day we got a lot of free things, and we will go to the restaurant and eat the whole bento, and then someone already paid for it just because they saw like, wow, 2 ladies like did the cycling, and then the lorry guys will just like pay for the whole thing. It's like, yeah, it's on me. Yeah, so that kind of stuff. Yeah, so. And I think like that, I mean, not simply the free ticket, but just the view and also the fact that like you can experience that different landscape just by cycling. I think that is quite wonderful for me. So I went on and cycled in Spain, in Germany, in Switzerland, in UK, coast to coast, like the island, top to island, bottom, and also Shikoku Island. Shikoku Island I didn't finish it. It was only half of it. Yeah. And Lucia, so I did a lot of cycling. But when I first went back to Asia, I thought like, wow, that is a cycle. So I should do something over there. I should go back and do the same cycling. So that was how I did it. And then I ended in my university. So when I went to the university, my dean, already the director of the school, no, my teacher, one of my teacher, already the director of the school, and then she was like, Wendy, you should just stay in Taiwan, don't go back to small places like Borneo, and our island is actually bigger. So why don't you just like teach here, because it's a lot of things that you can do over here. Yeah. Because it's also one of the best school. Yeah, I would say like in terms of the robotic, the technology, and even the beam technology, as I told you, it's a very technical school, used to be, but now it also has a lot of focus on the design. So I still remember, I'm really I will forever grateful for that, because she was like, when I tell her I can't because I had a commitment on the school, on the E-lab, like she was like, if you really think that Borneo is that good, why don't we send our students over? So that's how it works. It's like, so I think what got me thinking was, sometimes when you know what you want, like don't be afraid to tell people honestly. As much as I love that opportunity, but saying no at that point, I mean, mentally, I wish that I can do that, but I think like, but because of the commitment, I can't. So I think they will make ways for you. Yeah. So at that point, I was like, yeah, like, why don't we do it? We first started it that way. So that was how it works, how it started. Yeah. And then so they send students over, and then after that, like, the local university start to send students over as well. And then after that, like another university, like in Taiwan, and then another university from China. And also like start to have like other, we start to set up MOU with different universities. So that's how it's all started. And I think there's also a need for that after collaborating with several universities, and we know their problem. And I think it's as what we summarize. Yeah, and it's not simply one university, it's like all the universities have the same issue. And that is how what they can't, you know, avoid talking about. Yeah, at the moment. It's a crisis really. It's a crisis of our education system, and it's also a crisis of like for the good teacher. Like if they want to carry out their pedagogy and education, there's so much interference, not allowing them to do so. So of course it's going to be bad for the students, because if they don't get the kind of education they want, what is the point? Yeah, what is the point to stay in university? Yeah, so I think like a lot of people will think that wow, this is actually challenging the existing university framework. But to be honest, we're not wanting to change that. We actually just want to form another layer of it, and wanting to see like maybe at one point, I think, let's say if they goes on like that, things goes on like this, I would say like in the future the online platform will take over. Yeah, because the teachers are more serious. Yeah, and yeah. So on the reading side, yeah. So I think reading all this while, because coming from small place like Borneo, I mean it's not a big like capital city like Jakarta. It's just a place where I would say Kuching is only like city center, maybe 200,000 people, and then including the outer fringes probably 600,000. But with it's not so much exposure when I was growing up there. But of course now things change like in Kuching. But like all this while, what I find is like reading has a very, very important factor on my growth, intellectual growth. And then like after reading, apart from doing reading, I also set up book club. I already started it when I was in Taiwan. Yeah, one of the reasons I do so is I realized reading is something that a lot of people underestimate. And coming from a school with one of the best library, like at that point, I thought, wow, reading can really change you, and reading made me go to places, different places. Like for example, going to Turkey, one of the reasons was I love Orhan Pamuk. Orhan Pamuk was like My Name is Red, you know, like the novel. So the Nobel Prize novel, like, and also it's a writer that like looking at things in a different. Okay, so the book is organized in different chapters, right? Each of the chapters is picking up the perspective from, let's say, the coin, or the books, or the scarf, or the woman, or the man, or the murderer, or so to describe a murder scene. Yeah. So that's the kind of like book that I love, and then I decided to go to Istanbul because of that. And also I felt that like having the curiosity, sometimes I think students or people nowadays spending a lot of time on the social media, like and the kind of information that we get is quite fragmented. And what we deal with is actually the crisis of our time. Somehow I feel that is important, you know, because you get information so quickly, and then you get bored so quickly as well. And then if you don't spend consistent time or consistent like focus on something, how could you really get the love and the passion out of it? Because I think if we break down love, is I think the fundamental of it is come from spending time with it, loving it in different way. Yeah. So I think for me, book has fundamentally changed me, just because it's like when I was reading, I also becoming curious, and I became curious. I want to find out about it. Like I mean, read it, or like even go to the actual place to see it, and even talk to the people, seeing the movie, reading more book about it. So I decided, okay, you know what, reading is such a good habit that like I wish more people, I can find more people like to share that. So I started a book club. And then with my studio, one of the reasons that I did that studio is also to organize the book club. So we have that like every month. Yeah, so I was already running a book club when I was in London. But it's not really a book club where with a specific one book, because I think the danger of this is like when you only read one book, like everyone else reading the same book. In the book club, people are just going to try to come up with something intelligent to say, or the attention catching thing to say. Yeah, it's becoming a very competitive thing. And if your goal of this book club is in order to open up discussion, you want to make sure everyone participating in it. So the kind of book club that I run is a theme-based book club. So we set our theme like birth. Find a book related to birth. And then you come to the book club and then tell me why do you think the book that you're reading is related to them. Yeah. Or you can be more professional, like looking at the let's say the Invisible City. Yeah. So a book related to Invisible City is like the prototype of it is like the Invisible City by Italo Calvino, and then like it is using a different like 24 different city description to talk about one city, Venice, isn't it? So it's kind of like using different perspectives to tell one thing. But in real life, there are so many ways that you can use that kind of multi-narrator to talk about one thing. So with that, you can also come up with like different books. So with my book clubs, I always want to encourage more people to share what they have learned, and that's how I generate my school as well. Like how I can learn from other people. So with these now, I think we have more than 90 members on this, like online, contributing online. Yeah. So also the reading retreat. So this recently started. So we already did 3 reading retreats in other places. Yeah, so we would go into like let's say the mountain or even the jungle or the riverside in this case. Like me and my student will list out a list of reading, and then everyone just do their own bit. Like so basically, can you imagine a vacation? You do nothing but reading. Yeah, so we will request like, okay, let's do the reading marathon, and then like by the end of every single day we do some sharing. Yeah, so it's a little bit like Bible reading. No, not that religious. It's like so it's like coming together and then contribute, and then sharing different perspectives. Yeah, so reading also have another impact. It's led to is the collective writing. So apart from the collective reading, what I want to know is like, okay, how about, because I know my friends is kind of like scattered worldwide now. So if they can tell me something about their respective area, like the architecture scene in their respective area, how good would that be? Then I will know like what is the big, medium, small scale of enterprise, the architectural practice there, and how do they run things. So this is something that I run with in collaboration with Taiwan Architect magazine. So at one point I was the part-time editor for one of the special programs. Yeah, so with this special program, I running it with my architect friends in different places. So we were looking at big, medium, small scale architect practice and interview them. How do they run things? What is their struggle? What is their current focus? And what is their way of what is their involvement in the education? What is their involvement in the social society? And also, what is the fundamental belief of their practice? And the kind of experiment they do, who funds it, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So then we get to know worldwide what people think. In a way, it's also trying to collect the database as well. Yeah, so this is the practice issue, and we have done 6, 7 already, against different topics, female architect, or even the young architect, or the educational practice, stuff like that. And then, of
Is
course,
it being sold?
Huh?
Is it being sold or?
yes, actually, it's being sold and also.
PDF or things like that? Shared by-
Yes, yes. But the thing is like because it's Taiwan Architect Magazine, so they work with the Architect Association.
Oh, I see. So it's like a SA magazine in Singapore. So it's
Yes,
done by
so-
institute professions.
Exactly. So what that means is, if you are a qualified architect, so like for example, I'm RIBA architect, ARB architect. Every month I will get 2 magazines. Yeah. So with that, every architect will get it. Yeah.
So it's a part of your tuition. What member fee?
I'm not Taiwan architect though.
Okay. It's like an RIBA things.
Yes, it's like a RBA
When
thing.
we like
You
the member
subscribe.
fee, you can get the free magazine per month.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. And then they will tell you what is going on with the.
And
with-
when you a member of PAM?
No,
Oh, no, okay.
no. But I can call myself architect because it's the RBA work as the Commonwealth. Mm. So I think with Taiwan Architect Magazine is like, then everyone can see it. So I think like that magazine, because it has an influence. So then we can also help like what we see ourselves is like we can becoming an organ of looking outward and see what is going on, the tendency. So I think this is also one of the form that when I say like you need to work collectively, because at the moment there's no way you can avoid so, because there's already all the tools that you need, and you have to garner your international network in order to do so. Just imagine like after 6 series, and then people start coming to us and say, look, because you already have done it with like international network and also understanding how it works. And then they start like looking at your advice and trying to understand what is the tendency, what is the most current issue right now. Yeah. So also through the education chapter, what I found is that actually with the education, a lot of university they are quite anxious.
Yes.
They are very anxious because they know what is going on. And they know that like since 80s, 90s, they already start to becoming a commodity. Yeah, students paying a lot for high level education, but they're not getting the equivalent. Yeah, so we already knew that 4-5 years ago. Yeah, so how do we change it? Yeah, so this is, I think in your generation there will be a lot more question on that. And I think people are getting impatient. Yeah, so at last, I think before I die, I think you all have the question. I think I will leave it to the discussion, because I'm not sharing a lot of like the work, because it's like today is not about that. Today is more about like how to like go through in your life. You will have a lot of like question on the qualification, on like whether to stay in the big city or the small city, or whether to do a one-person practice or a multinational corporate, and I think whatever you set out, your goals will hopefully lead you to somewhere. But I think like now your generation is quite exciting because you already within the network of like I think in no time, looking at what is going on in the current political scene or even the environmental scene, what I find is like some of the education, I think some of the anxiety a lot of educational institutes got was because they start to find themselves like maybe not so relevant. Because since library can be accessed online, since education can be accessed online, what is their role? Yeah. And the same thing with practice as well. A lot of practice like start to looking at moving into lower overhead, and also looking at like how can we do things collaboratively online, and instead of keeping in an office, like people travel and people meet other people. So you want to harness a very strong network of like collaborative team. Yeah. And the same thing with yourself as well. Like whether to stay in big city or small city probably is not so much relevant. And what I find when I was in UK is that a lot of people try to get a UK citizenship just in order to, like, I think a lot of people going to America as well, like trying to get the green card or things like that. And I think like it will be less and less relevant. At least from my era, I already feel that. Because I think in no time, like if you look at like how accessible on the internet is right now, you can literally know what you need to know, what you want to know. So what's that if you spend effort on finding out the truth? So country becoming more and more nervous just because it's like in the past any good things and bad things happen, like they can shut it in their backyard. Nobody will find out about it. But the thing is like nowadays you are so informed. Is give them a challenge to like, okay, maybe there's no door to shut. But how like you can actually act like a government sometimes, you know. So I think that's very, for them it's opened up a lot of challenge on like how to govern the people, how to administrate the thing that's going on the ground. And if you look at the banking system as well, if you look, I mean the banking system at the moment is like, where's the biggest bank at the moment? You know? It's like I think in no time it will be replaced by the online bank, which don't have to go through any transaction fees and cross-country, transaction. So it's like, I think the system is gradually replaced by the new one. And if we think that we still want to be good, work, I mean like do well with the old system, then I think we ourselves will becoming obsolete. Yeah, so I hope that like you guys carry, I mean like it's, having said that, it is exciting. Yeah, so that's it maybe.
That's it. How do you put before I die? I said.
Okay, yeah, because before I die, I think it's like, it's kind of give you like, it's not for me to answer, it's more for you to think like, okay, before I die, what do you want to achieve? What do you want to do? Yeah.
Discussion begin. Any discourse? Jason, introduce yourself first.
My name is Jason. I just recently graduated from Dharma Nagara University, and I'm interested in why you choose coaching as your base on your practice and research, not like Kuala Lumpur or Johor Bahru, which more near to Singapore, that more advanced the coaching. What things that make you interested to
The other area is more advanced than coaching. That's the premise that you get rather than the people. Okay, elaborate.
No, I wouldn't say that it's less advanced.
This one is
I
a
definitely
discourse.
think that, I definitely think that is this is the kind of question, the most question I got, because a lot of people knows that when they know that I'm going back to Malaysia, they thought, wow, it's like it's such an exciting choices, like, because a lot of people actually see there's a lot happening in Malaysia anyway. So going back to Malaysia from UK is not really a reduction. They see it as like more like, wow, it's like you can do much more like over in Malaysia. It's an exciting place to be, and also it's an exciting time to be. Yeah, but I think like even in Malaysia itself, previously a lot of people looking at the Kuala Lumpur narrative, but if you look at that, the structure of that narrative is actually quite top down, because they were set out in order to be seen in the way that they want to be seen. And how I said that is like, previously we spoke about emerging communities and that. Yeah,
Yes.
I will recommend everyone to read it. I will recommend every of you to read it, because it's like, it's not about like being the because it's affected our region, including yours, like region. Like when a country get out from the colonialism, what the next thing that they need to do with different islands, they want to unite them with, I don't know whether it's good. Yeah, the imagined community. So it means that an entity, like everyone will subscribe to. So let's say if you want to do such thing, like then obviously there will be certain priority like that happen, that take place as well. And then that kind of priority sometimes is not necessarily I think most of the time is if the agenda is political, then how about the stuff that already been there for so long? So if you look at Borneo, I would say a lot of narrative is still kind of untouched, unexplored. And for me, if I want to just do business, I would go to maybe Kuala Lumpur or places like that. But to be honest, it doesn't really stop me from doing like what I need to do or like the commercial project. I would say in Kuching, if I'm seeing myself more as a cultural practitioner, of course you want to tap into the untapped one and also the one that need to be explored. And myself, I'm born here. And for me, I think it's very important in our generation, we at least looking at culture from a cultural point of view rather than from a political point of view. And I think often, if you look at Southeast Asian context, these two being messed up a lot. Yeah, just because of the thing that we spoke about.
Culture being a commodity.
Culture becoming a commodity or something to
And used for a political stance.
political agenda. Yeah, if it's just commodity, it's probably not that bad. But when it's used for the political agenda, it separate people. So I think at the moment in Malaysia we need diversity, and something that I really don't like in Malaysia is that a lot of time when politicians they trying to how do you say like do campaign, they will say we need to have the tolerance. We need to have the tolerance, but tolerance means that if something bad happens, so you need to tolerate it. Yeah. So I don't think with the majority of the crowd right now, I think in Malaysia there's a lot of good people. There's a lot of good people, and I think what we need is like more like the understanding, rather than like purely just how do you say it? It's like rather than just like follow, blindly. There's a danger of that, and I think in Kuching, since it is away from the capital city, it's also helped. I think we have a lot of freedom, and in Malaysia, I would say Kuching is kind of like a
Sterile, non-pretentious.
non-pretentious and almost like a conscience of the country. Yeah, because it's like if you look at the last 6 years and 7 years, I would say a lot of people, a lot of Malaysians, they will see Sarawak as a very exciting place, simply because I don't think, and of course there will be some people will say, because so you guys think that you are standalone, and then you have like totally different demography, and then you want to be independent. But I don't think it's that. I think it is Sarawak. Why Sarawak is exciting at the moment is that it's not simply celebrating a Sarawak ideology. This ideology is in fact a Malaysian one. But when that ideology in the general Malaysia, like the Peninsula Malaysia, it was only becoming a political campaign rather than take place in the reality, people get fed up. And people start to look at like Sarawak with a different light. Because and you will be, of course, like there will be some friends or colleagues from Peninsula Malaysia. They were like, do you see yourself more as Sarawakian or Malaysian? And then like, my answer is always like, you'll be surprised how Sarawakian you are. Because it's like if you, rather than saying like categorize people due to the region, I would say it's more important that we to find out our similarity and also our common ground. Yeah. So I would say like at the moment teaching, and also like to answer your question because I think I gone offset.
That's okay.
Yeah, because I think in the past, in our time, the equation is more like go to big city and do something.
Same as in here too. Like
Same
everyone
as
in
in-
Nisha go
yeah.
to Jakarta
Yes.
or nearby like Bandung or the cities nearby in Java especially.
Yes, simply because of like this is the best way to organize work. Yeah, organize the work being done, the production. Yeah, because when we talk about the development, we talk about production. But if production can already take place off center, then why not? Especially in our time, like most of like I do have a lot of like online commission and also online commitment, which I don't have to travel to. I mean, I still travel a lot, but I don't have to like base in a certain place in order to make things happen. So so I think the same with your generation, like you will find that it's quite irrelevant sometimes to stay in bustling city, yeah, and waiting a lot for the traffic. Yeah, you could have spent your time on the better things. Then I think that is the moment that you start to have clarity. Maybe I can move back to a farm, you know. Yeah, so I think in Gucci we were just talking about like some of my friends, four master graduate went to the inland and be the farmer and organize their selling online. Yeah, so that is like that's starting to happen, and I would say like it's getting more and more people realizing it's quite important for our generation to not simply concentrate our resources, the national resources, in one city. It should be of center to look at like the satellite of it. I hope it's answered your question.
You want to elaborate, Jason?
I think it's good. I agree with your statement.
Do you want to move back to the small city or like big city?
Maybe I want to try to not in Jakarta, outside, but outside because same like because same as we was
Bekasi.
oh yeah
Want to move to another planet? That
because
is the area of Bekasi. We call it another planet.
Oh, okay.
It's just more like a
yeah
joking thing.
because I also like what you said. I from since my childhood until now I live in here and things make me like sometimes I feel fed up with the the system in here too, and I want to try how about going to another place that maybe I don't know the place the place about that place before, but maybe it can give me some new experience and maybe new perspective for me to how should I do next in my life. That,
I think it's so important. Then you should, I think, believe in people, really. Believe in people will treat the kindness back, like if you what you show is kindness. Yeah. Because I think it's definitely need a lot of like courage to just to be out there.
I just interpret it in a different way. I mean, I think that you have the courage to back to going back to your origin and embrace it. I mean, that's origin meaning coming back to the what life in the coaching and stay focused when your asset is ready. You know, your network or whatever what you have, your skill and everything set up, and that's it. I'm going home. Embrace my origin. Okay, that's why it becomes like the narrative is pretty strong with the new methodology, that the new asset that you acquired in foster environment and in you. I think it's the good thing that if we try to build something more beautiful, right? Rather just to destroy the things. Yeah.
Not simply disrupt.
Yeah.
Sometimes only like come and then trust and then go.
Yes.
Yeah.